Yes, sir. You already know what time it is. Time for Sports Talk with Naj, where we keep it real and authentic. Break down football, basketball, and soccer. So, hey, man, stay tuned. Follow us on the socials, and make sure you tell a friend. Yes, sir. We'll see you on the other side. Back to another episode of Sports Talk with Naj, man. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Got a lot to talk about today, man. So much didn't happen in the sports world. I just put out a video about Lamar Jackson, why I think he's a top 10 quarterback, and he's always, to me, seems like disrespected. But definitely check out that video I just dropped on my YouTube channel. I think it's a very good, insightful video, and you guys comment on that video. Let me know what you think, man. But today, a lot to talk about today. We got some NFL news. We got some basketball, some soccer, and, of course, some miscellaneous, man. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it, man. So, first and foremost, man, we're going to go ahead and talk about some NFL. Burrow's actually going to have our star quarterback for the Bengals. Joe Burrow's actually going to have an appendectomy. So, hopefully, man, just hoping he's going to undergo it in about 48 hours. I'm hoping that procedure goes well for him. And, I'm saying, I hope he has a quick, speedy recovery. And he gets back on the field promptly, man, because he's our star quarterback, and he's led us, to heights I thought we would never reach, man. So, shout out to him, and I hope he has a quick, speedy recovery. And, hopefully he'll be back on the field soon before we know it, man. But keeping it going, we got some XFL news. This is a league I think that's going to be very successful, especially with their brand partnerships with ESPN, some with NFL, as far as testing out different rules, referees, all kind of things. So I definitely think it's going to be one of those leagues that's going to definitely perform very well. And they've announced 8 cities for teams next year. So according to the official announcement that was this past Sunday, the league will feature teams in Las Vegas, Orlando, San Antonio, Arlington, Texas, Houston, St. Louis, Seattle, Washington, D.C., Las Vegas, Orlando, and San Antonio. Those are going to be some of the new additions to the XFL. The other 5 cities have hosted teams in previous versions of the league. So XFL actually replaced New York, Los Angeles, and Tampa Bay, all of which hosted teams in the previous iteration of the league. So when they had the league a couple of years ago, but reportedly this was because they had the lowest average attendance figures during the 2020 season, according to Kevin Seifert of ESPN. So great for the XFL. I'm excited for next year when they come about to be. I think it'll be after the NFL season concludes. Well, it'll be, for those fanatic football fans, they'll have something to watch, something to look at during that time, because a lot of times once the NFL season over, usually basketball will pick up more so. You'll watch that. But for those fans that love football and want to watch it year-round, I mean, now you got the XFL, and we have to see, when the schedule comes out and things like that and how long it's going to progress. But if you always love football, you got something else to, watch on your TV, man. So I can't wait to see what this league does. Can't wait to see how the attendance numbers do, how much fans are into it, and, we'll see if it'll be a great league. I definitely think having the NFL backing them, the ESPN partnering with them, and then Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, basically being, the CEO and being basically the co-founder of the league, I definitely think it can go pretty far. So, curious to see how it's going to go next year, but I can't wait. I think this will be a successful league, and I think it'll be one players can play in for years to come, man. So, it's going to conclude our XFL news. To keep it going, we got some news on John Metchie, who was actually diagnosed with leukemia. He was recently diagnosed, according to his statement, by the Texans, acute promyelocytic leukemia, but luckily it's the most curable form of leukemia. So if you guys don't know who John Metchie is, he played for Alabama. He wasn't able to play in the national title game because he got hurt in the SEC championship game. I think he tore his ACL, but he lit it up that season, 96 catches, 1,142 yards. But he's a great player, a great person from what I've heard and experienced and researched a little bit. And, it's really sad to see, man, that this happened to him. Hopefully, man, speedy recovery for him. But he's likely out for the season this year. The Texans actually gave up a little bit to get him. They traded up in the second round, sending 3 picks to the Cleveland Browns to select Metchie 44th overall. So I definitely think he's going to be one of those top-notch receivers, definitely. And, I'm just wishing him the best, man, him and his family, and I hope he can have a good recovery and just imagine, man, if he can come back and put together, a Pro Bowl career. I mean, he can go down as a legend, man, especially dealing with this. We've seen other players across the league had to deal with this. Eric Berry is another name that kind of comes to my mind. He was dealing with cancer, but luckily he was able to, fight it off, stave it off, and he came back you know what I'm saying, into the league and then played for a couple more seasons for the Chiefs. So, I mean, hopefully it'll turn into an incredible story. Sending my prayers and, you know, condolences to him that he can push through this and, you know, fight it and get through it. And I think he'll be, you know, if he can fight through it and get through, I think he'll be one of those star receivers. And I think the Texans will be very happy that they selected him. But, I mean, the comeback from this, and if he can turn into a star receiver that he's more than capable of being, it's a legendary story, man. But keeping it going, basically to conclude the NFL section, I have some win projections for some teams. So I'm going to start a win projections as we progress closer to the season with camp starting for a lot of NFL teams. I'm going to start doing win projections for each division. So I'm going to start NFC and I'm going to go to AFC. So NFC, we're going to start with the South. I think next week I'll do the NFC East and so forth and so forth. So for me, man, I think the Saints is going to be the winner of this division. Interesting enough, the Saints start the season with 3 straight division games, so you can't get better than that. That's a good way to put a stranglehold on the division, or even, basically, be way above the division. I mean, it's going to be tough, of course, because they got Tampa Bay in there. I think that's going to be really their only competitor this year. Week 2 is going to tell me a lot about this team because they play Tampa Bay at home, who in all likelihood will be the team, like I said, they're competing with. But for the most part, man, the Saints have had the better hand against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, especially during the season. Only time that the Bucs really beat them was when they mattered most, which was in the playoffs. So, I mean, we have to see. But during the season, the Saints have had the upper hand and had beat this team pretty handily for the most part. So we're going to see, man. They got a new era there. I like what moves they made this year. We'll see what happens with Michael Thomas, see if he can come back fully healthy. I like that they got Chris Olave. They got Alvin Kamara there in the backfield. You know, they still got Taysom Hill, their gadget player who can do a lot for that team. Of course, there's a new regime. Dennis Allen is now the coach. Sean Payton, basically gave up the reins of coaching. So, I think, man, for the most part, you have to like the direction they're going in. They did lose Marcus Williams to the Ravens, but, they still got some great corners there, Marshawn Lattimore and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. So we're going to see what happens with them, man. But they're my pick. They're my sleeper pick. I think they're going to contend for this division. And I think they're going to be one of those teams you see there towards the end. Now, it's not going to be easy, but, for me, I think they're going to fly on the radar pretty much all season. I got them winning a lot of games this year. I got them winning 11 games, so I got them going 11-6 next season and winning the division. Now, I'm never going to count out Tom Brady and the Bucs. I think this would be a team that I think it'll be one of those struggle years for the Bucs. Still have them making the postseason, but everything's not going to be as easy for them. Brady's older. They still got Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and things like that. But their defense, the year they won the Super Bowl was elite, and the defense took a step back last year. I think it's going to be kind of the same thing. But I got them as a wild card team. The problem is, though, if you let this team in the wild card, you really got to watch out because Brady in the playoffs is nothing to play with. We seen it last year when it was down. I think it was they were down by 20-plus points to the Rams. They almost came back. So this is a team, never let your foot off the gas pedal, especially with Brady at the quarterback position. Always make sure you keeping your foot on the gas and making sure you always going for the kill shot because if you give him any sliver of hope, it's over, So I definitely think they're going to still make the postseason. I just don't think it'll be one of those seasons where you see them win a lot of games. Like I see them can go in like maybe like a 9-8 or a 10-7 because they do have kind of a tough schedule as well. Their first 4 games is really to me a gauntlet. They play the Cowboys, the Saints, the Packers, and the Chiefs. So I think that first stretch will say a lot about their season. I think they could either in that stretch go 3-1 or 2-2. So for me, I think it'll be one of those seasons like a 10-7 or 9-8. I think they'll be able to get in because the NFC, a lot of players from the NFC went to the AFC. Like Russell Wilson went to Denver. Devontae Adams went to the Raiders. Like a lot of players that are usually in the NFC went to the AFC. So I think the AFC will be a lot more tougher this year than the NFC, in my humble opinion. Even though the NFC has won the championship the past 2 seasons. But I think this is a year that the NFC will be a little bit weaker, in my opinion. I think we'll be crowning an AFC champion this year. So that's what I got the Bucs finishing. I think they'll finish second in the division, but I think they'll still make the postseason. And then the Panthers, I got the Panthers going 7-10 this year. Curious to see who's going to win the starting job between Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. They have a pretty decent roster around, but it all starts and stops with the quarterback, and really it's going to determine if Christian McCaffrey can stay healthy. He's one of the better backs in the league, but to me, he's always hurt. So, if he can stay healthy and whole, I definitely think this is a team you got to watch out for, next season. Now, I think Panthers They will have a few upset games next year. I don't think they'll have quite enough to contend for playoff next year, but I think they have some more holes in their roster they gotta address first, and we really gotta see who's gonna be the quarterback and what he's gonna be able to do, because quarterback position has kind of been a position of hardship for the Panthers, and it looks like they're moving on from Cam Newton and even Sam Darnold they don't trust, which is why they traded for Baker Mayfield. So we're going to see what happens and see how it all plays out for them. But I definitely think this is one of those years they're going to have a couple upset games that they're going to win. Now to kind of close it out, the Falcons. Unfortunately for Falcon fans, I'm sorry, I got them at the bottom of the division. I think Mariota will again disappoint, and even though they got this Desmond Ridder, I think in the 4th round, I don't think he would be ready for that prime spot yet. And stepping into that starting role when he's called upon, potentially early in the season, I just don't think he'll be ready. But fortunately for the Falcons, I think they hit a swing and a miss with the quarterback they drafted. But I think next year they'll be one of those teams that, probably either win 4 or 5 games and can actually go get a quarterback. Because next year is going to be either get one with Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, and we'll see what other quarterbacks come up to 4th that can play. But with those coming up, you got a pretty top-notch draft class coming next season. So I think 5-12 for them next year, or even worse, 4-13. But I think they'll finally be able to get their franchise quarterback next year, and they'll start moving into the right direction. But it's going to take some time. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time. That's where I got the Falcons finishing next year, and I think they'll be poised to land their franchise quarterback. Now, moving on to the NBA, Celtics offered a trade package for Kevin Durant. So Boston tried to basically deal Jaylen Brown, who did actually tweet out and said SMH. So Shams Charania of The Athletic and Stadium reported the Celtics offered Brown, Derek White, and an undisclosed draft pick for Kevin Durant. The Nets countered by asking for Brown, Marcus Smart, draft picks, and another rotation player. Now, obviously, players weren't too thrilled, and we see some reports kind of come out with Kyrie's going to pretty much stay in Brooklyn whether or not KD stays or not. And we've seen something, too, with, KD. These are just according to reports. I don't know how true this is, but this is what I've been seeing on social media and Bleacher Report and other little apps out there, and that Kevin Durant doesn't want to play in Boston. So, 2 things. If you're Boston, I wouldn't make this trade. You just made it to the finals and you lost in 6 games, And for the most part, like I said, it was those crunch moments that they couldn't really perform. But you're only a couple of pieces away. You have a very good dynamic duo, in my opinion, in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. That was Tatum's first finals experience. He's only going to get better. Same thing with Brown. Brown's going to only get better. And then you keep Marcus Smart, and then you just got Malcolm Brogdon. You traded some of those assets that you had, or those draft picks, and some players to get him. He's probably going to be in your closing lineup. He's a guy that can orchestrate the offense well, play the offense well, get the ball to the playmakers, get the ball, and score baskets on his own too. So to me, you really don't need to trade for Kevin Durant. That's not going to be a move that puts you head and heels above and gives you to a championship. Now, of course, Kevin Durant's an all-time great player, but that's not a move I would make if I was the Celtics. If I'm the Celtics, I'm going to continue to trust in my young core team for the most part, my young 2 stars, in my opinion. And I'm going to just build around them. You got Robert Williams there as well. He's a shot-blocking big, He sends shots away all day from the rim. So you got him as your backcourt. You got Marcus Smart, Malcolm Brogdon, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. You got a roster to contend. We just seen that basically in the finals. So you really, to me, Boston has all they need. Maybe a couple of rotational pieces in there that they can come and kind of contribute off the bench. But for the most part, if you're Boston, you really don't have much else that you need in order to get a title. So if I'm them, I'm not going to offer this trade package for Kevin Durant. I'm going to go talk to Jaylen Brown. I'm going to go sit him down, and we're going to be we're going to have this conversation. Yes, we did this. We apologize. How can we make amends? How can we make amends? How can we make this right? How can we make this better? And then that's what I'm going to do, because he is an integral part of my future and someone I believe in that's going to help land us another championship. So if I'm Boston, that's what I'm doing, And then as far as the Nets, really quick, it really just depends on what they want to do. Obviously KD requested a trade, but you may have to go in the front office and talk to him, because obviously the Nets, they want a lot for KD, and I don't think they're going to get it. I think, Phoenix is one of those teams that was going to try to do it, but I think they changed their mind. We haven't heard much from the Heat standpoint, Miami Heat standpoint, whether what they're going to do. So I just think if you're the Nets, give it another go. Give it another year with KD. Talk to him. Let's say, hey, Kyrie's here for another year. You're under contract for another 3 years. We got Ben Simmons here. Let's everybody buy in. That's what I really think the Nets need. They just need intervention. Just sit all 3 of these players down. All right, we're going to have a year of this. We're going to see what happens, where this goes. After this season, then we can talk. That's what I would do if I was the Nets general management or management, whatever. I get you requested to trade KD, but we just paid you. We got everything that you needed, that you wanted here. Let's go try to win the title this year. We got all the necessary pieces. We're going to add a couple more pieces, as far as free agency goes or whatever. And let's see what we can do in the next season, because I think we have a roster in order to contend. If I'm a Nets management, that's what I'm going to do, because it would be me. I mean, of course, you want to haul for KD, but it would be silly to trade KD after you paid him all that money and you've pretty much succumbed basically to his wishes and what he wants. So if I'm the Nets, that's what I would do. If I'm Boston, that's what I would do. I wouldn't trade for KD. I would keep my core roster. If I'm the Nets, I'm going to try to work it out with KD. Let's see if we can get us another shot another year. If not, if Kyrie's gone, cool. You know what? We'll trade you if you still want to be traded after the year, and we'll go from there. That's what I would do. And then a quick shout out to Tina Charles for making history. I think she was the 4th WNBA player to score 7,000 points. So definitely wanted to give her a shout out. One of the few players in WNBA history to do that. So definitely wanted to come on the show today and give her a shout out. Shout out to all the WNBA players, and great season so far for her. And she did it, I think, with 20 points and 10 rebounds in the game. So shout out to Tina Charles. Yes. And to conclude the NBA section, basically going to talk about Colin Sexton, who basically was not thrilled with a 3-year, $40 million offer from the Cavs. Now, for me, I know probably Sexton's thinking I want top-tier money, but for the most part, I mean, he could play, but he hasn't been on the court. And Darius Garland really showed you that he's dynamic. He can play well. He's a good facilitating wing, and he has what it takes to be that guard of the future for the Cavs. And this is a young, budding team. I think you still got Evan Mobley there, Jared Allen. I think marketing is there as well. So they got some good pieces in place. So, I mean, if I understand why the Cavs made this, you could say, low ball offer for Sexton, but it's like you haven't really been on the court, and we think we found what we needed at that guard position. So we're going to see what happens with Sexton, but my stance on it, I can't fault Cleveland, honestly. Hasn't really been on the court like that. Last year he was hurt, and then the previous years we kind of seen the Cavs in gutter ball. But now it looks like the Cavs are turning around. They was one of the surprise teams last year. Unfortunately, they didn't make the postseason. They got eliminated by the Atlanta Hawks. But that was a team that you had your eyes on, that was as high as a 4 seed last year. So I think next year they're going to be even better. And I wouldn't pay Sexton $100 million or whatever, because you got to think, okay, contract's going to come up for Garland potentially in the future, Mobley. I got to give money to them, though I know it's going to be on the court. It's going to compete. And it's going to be out there and help it turn around this franchise. So I don't blame the Cavaliers for making that offer. I don't. I'll leave it at that. Now, we've got some soccer news. Only a couple things here. Really, Atlanta United loses at home Sunday at 2-0 to LAFC. LA Galaxy, sorry. And basically, man, Atlanta United is having a really tough season, man. Right now, if we look at the standings as far as MLS, I believe they sit at the 12th seed right now. So they're on the outside looking in. You need the top 7 spot to make the playoffs. Right now, they're 12th. They have 6 wins, 6 draws, and 9 losses. 24 points right now. The good thing is, if they can start winning some games, they can get back there, because they're only 4 points out of that 7th spot. And, they still have a game in hand on the teams that are at the top. But Atlanta's just had kind of a rough season, honestly. And their first half, it was not good enough at all. They didn't move the ball well. Defensively, they got pinned down on half for long periods of time. And they didn't really have a clear, goal or a clear idea of how really to attack. Second half was better, but it just wasn't enough. And Joseph Martinez, their star, wasn't able to get enough balls into the box, and where we've seen him score before. So right now, Atlanta sits, they have lost 8 of their last 11 games and currently 12th position in the Eastern Conference, while LA Galaxy get a huge win that keeps them afloat and ahead of the Portland Timbers for that essential 7th spot with the game in hand. So right now, LA Galaxy has to like where they're sitting at, and they have a game in hand over the Portland Timbers. So Atlanta United takes another L. Just talking about the game, it was 2-0. Hold on, guys. Let me get you some stats here. Yes, it was 2-0. It was a goal by Kevin Cabral in the 7th minute, and then Dejan Jovelik in the 90th minute. So far, stats on the game: 10 shots total for LA Galaxy, 12 shots for Atlanta United, 3 shots on target for Atlanta United, and then 6 shots on target for LA Galaxy. So about 60% to around like 25-30% for Atlanta United. And, for the most part, you could say it was even notch with the possession, but they just didn't play a good half. The first half, second half was a little bit better, but it just wasn't enough to get victory, and they take another L on the road. So, Atlanta United, we'll see if they're able to claw out of this little funk they're in. But right now, not looking too good. They're gonna have to turn around soon because I think the season only has a couple months left before it concludes. So we'll see what happens. But that's a quick update on Atlanta United. And then to conclude our soccer section, talking about Man United, actually offered an alternative exit for Ronaldo. And they secretly want Denzel Dumfries from Inter Milan. So right now, they actually put a proposal forward for Cristiano Ronaldo to let him leave. They would ask the 37-year-old to extend his contract by another year. Then they would allow him to join another league for a season-long loan. So they would let him continue playing in the Champions League while retaining him for another year in hopes United were back in the tournament. And then Manchester United are moving on in the transfer market. They have their eyes on Denzel Dumfries. He's a 26-year-old right wing back. Could it be a solution to allow Erik ten Hag to play 5 at the back? And a move depends on Aaron Wan-Bissaka leaving. So honestly, Dumfries is a more attacking player than Wan-Bissaka, and he's excellent one-on-ones, but is unable to offer really anything going forward. And he pairs properly to grasp the positioning requirements of a modern right side defender. So he might cost them around $30 million, Dumfries is, but he could really help them in the lower half of the field, definitely in that 5th spot, depending on what kind of formation that Erik ten Hag wants to run. But that's my thoughts on that. I think it would really help the defensive back line, which really struggled last year. As you guys all know, Manchester United gave up a lot of goals, even when they were scoring goals last season. And as far as the Ronaldo news, I think that would be great. It depends on what he wants to do. And if he wants to stay or not. But it's reported that he actually came to training camp grounds today and was training with the team. So we have to see what's up with that. But, if this alternative exit, it's not bad for Ronaldo so he could play for a year and then come back next year. And next year they could be contending and competing for that Champions League football. You can't get no better than that because I think next year Man United is going to have a really great season. And I think it's going to be a contending team because they're putting themselves in position to get good players that's going to really help their defending, their midfield, and their attacking unit. So, it's really up to Ronaldo what he wants to do. If he wants to just wait a year and just kind of be a part of that turnaround for Man United, or if he wants to leave and then come back. So it really depends on how bad he wants to play Champions League football. That's the biggest thing. But we're going to see what happens, man. No big news on that so far, but kind of curious to see if they're going to land this right wing back Denzel Dumfries from Milan. I think that'll definitely help their back line. But, to conclude for today, we have Max Verstappen capturing another victory in the French Grand Prix. He won after Charles Leclerc. He crashed out of the race on lap 18, luckily walking away unscathed. But the Mercedes duo of Lewis Hamilton and George Russell completed the podium at Paul Ricard of, Max Verstappen first, Lewis Hamilton second, and then George Russell third. But, for the most part, Verstappen, he was pitted on lap 17. So it's basically up to Leclerc to respond. A cruel snap of the oversteer at turn 11 spelled the end of this race, cued a scream of frustration before bringing out a safety car for Leclerc. And Verstappen stayed out and inherited the lead. Hamilton and Red Bull Sergio Perez pitting and giving chase for the restart. So right now the championship leader for F1 is Verstappen. He leads comfortably when the race resumed on lap 22. He opened up a 4-second gap over Hamilton by lap 30 of 53 and eventually winning by a margin of over 10 seconds. Perez lost P3 to Hamilton at the start of the race and couldn't keep pace with them. And right now, like I said, he currently leads the race or the standings right now. Verstappen, who looks to be the superstar in F1. And then there's, of course, Lewis Hamilton and Sergio Perez, who's also having some pretty good seasons so far too. But a great event on Sunday, and Verstappen looks to continue his glory for the next race. I think is in another week or two, and I'll definitely try to keep you guys updated on that. But yeah, man, that's all we got for today. Some news around all the sports, some miscellaneous, some NFL news, some not baseball, some NFL news, some basketball news, and soccer. So hope you guys are entertained. Hope you liked it, and I appreciate you guys tuning in, man. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Instagram at Najee Wilk. Follow me on Twitter at Najee Wilk as well. And again, I love doing this for you guys every Tuesday. It's always a lot of fun, and hope to see you guys soon in the next episode, man. So appreciate it, and I'll see you guys then. Peace.